The world ended. Didn't you get the memo?
What do you suggest?
You're listening to Dead Air on 89.5 The Wave, KCFB Ferguson.
Think about something else. Puppies and kittens. Dead puppies and kittens.
That is right. We are back on Dead Air here on 89.5 The Wave, and I am your host, your friendly neighborhood DJ, JazzHandss, joined with a very, very special guest. And you need to try to be on the show more. I love having you.
I'm a busy guy. Sometimes I can make it, sometimes I can't. This time I can. I'm here.
Yep. My guest today is B.A. But, yeah, we're here to talk about last Sunday's epic Walking Dead episode, and it was a really good one.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I really enjoyed it because it was definitely a change of pace from the previous week's episode and all the chaos that ensued on the internet and the collective brain melting and exploding that went on from all the fans. Yeah. It was definitely a nice change of pace. It was a nice way to calm everybody down, and I enjoyed it. I tend to enjoy the really slow, character-focused episodes, especially with somebody we haven't seen too much from since, season 3, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this might be have been almost maybe some of the longest time that Morgan's actually been on, in front of the camera.
You could take every other
year. Yeah.
You could take every other episode he's been in, add it up, and it's still almost not as long as the episode was.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm right there with you, too. I love these slow, character-driven episodes a lot more. That's not saying that I don't like the violence, not violence, but I don't like the action. But it is nice to slow down to actually get some character development, because if it's all just survival, you stop caring about some of the main cast and the characters that, when they eventually do die, if Glenn is dead, if it was action, you wouldn't care.
You need the episodes of character development to care about the characters, so when they actually die, it means something. And you actually, Fear the Walking Dead, we were having this conversation, I just don't care about some of those characters. And maybe it's because they haven't really spent too much time on character development. Yeah. Even in the first season of Walking Dead, we got character development.
Yeah,
and that's 6 episodes. So you can't complain, because it's the same people running this show too.
Yeah, and I mean, you're so right on about that, because comparing let's say the first episode of The Walking Dead and then Fear the Walking Dead, you kind of understand Rick. Even the first moment where it's just Rick and Shane in the car, kind of talking about women.
Yeah, and then they hit the story about how Lori said something. I can't remember the exact quote, but she said something in front of, she said something to Rick about him not being a good dad or something.
Yeah.
And he's like, I would have never said that to her. You get an idea of what kind of guy this is, but by the end of that episode, you can relate to, this guy wants to go find his family. Yeah. It's something that you could understand, easy to attach to. So by the time he meets up with Carl again and Lori, I dare you not to care.
Yeah, exactly.
And Fear the Walking Dead doesn't have this, but Walking Dead, now that we're trying to bring it back to what we're actually talking about.
Bring it back.
The thing about Walking Dead is they dedicate time to let you care about these characters.
Yeah.
And it may be more either a full episode or parts of an episode over time, and it makes you put the pieces together. It's how I was with Daryl. Until they started fleshing out his character, I wasn't I don't really care. This is just, I guess Norman Reedus will be here for a while, and then he'll take off in the middle of next season or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And now he's going to be the reason people riot in the streets if they kill him. But the thing about Morgan, and the whole episode being about Morgan, I think the reason why people love Morgan so much is he was not just Rick's introduction into the new zombie-filled apocalypse. He was our introduction.
Yeah.
He was the one who set out all the rules. He's the one who laid the world out in front of us and let us, as well as Rick, find out, okay, this is what you need to do. These are the rules. This is how it works. And that's why, even though Morgan only made one appearance in season 3, everybody's like, man, where's Morgan? I really want to see more of Morgan. That's why everybody's so happy to see him in the teasers in season 5.
Yeah.
Leading up to that awesome cliffhanger, and now we finally get to find out what's been going on with Morgan this entire time.
Yeah, and I don't want to backtrack from it, because I love absolutely Morgan, and I love that we got to see Morgan, and I'm wondering too if that if maybe the character development in The Walking Dead is a little bit better because maybe they have a platelet with the comics, and so maybe they know kind of, okay, well, this is kind of how the character's going or something like that. But for me, at least, the definitive kind of characters are the ones from the TV show a little bit more so than the comics. The comic books are good adaptations. I mean, they're the original source, but I view Rick Grimes as Andrew Lincoln, you know. But yeah, so let's kind of like just dive right into the episode. The wolf is alive.
Yes, and I was just telling you before we jumped on, that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah,
because the whole episode previous, I can't remember the title name, but
no, not thank you.
It was JSS.
No, JSS was the second one. Thank you is the third one.
When Rick, now I'm just totally lost track because now I'm trying to think of the episode names, trying to be like, I'm so cool, I know the episode names. But when Alexandria gets taken over and run over by the wolves, which those aren't all of them, there's more.
Yeah, see,
you don't send everybody in. You send the ones that are probably not, that you don't care if you're going to see them again if they don't make it back.
Thank you. I just want to say,
I wanted to point it out because I wasn't here and I don't know if I'll be here for the next time. Like, I just wanted to throw some of that out. But Morgan wouldn't kill any of them. He let 5 of them go.
Yeah.
Why would he kill this one? It doesn't make sense. When all life is precious, all life is precious. There's a scene at the table between Eastman and Morgan when he's asking him the question, what did you do? What did you do? And he kept repeating, all life is precious.
Yeah.
He kept repeating it. And it's like, that doesn't surprise me that the wolf is still alive. He had a chance to kill him twice.
Yeah.
As we learn about Morgan and his new code and the way he's living his life now, there's no breaking it. He hasn't got to his breaking point yet. Do I think he'll get there? Maybe. Should he have at this point? Yes, because the wolf isn't just a guy who's dangerous.
Yeah.
He is, I'll just go ahead and say it. He said he got bit.
Yeah. Well, see, now, because this is what I was kind of talking about a little bit in this, just around places and trying to get it with a couple other people. Did it actually look like a bit? Or a bite? Because for me, it kind of looked like he was like stabbed or like a knife kind of like scratched him and it got like infected. The wound doesn't look like a traditional kind of bite.
It looked like a bite, sort of. I thought he got bit, so maybe I'm wrong. But say even if he got stabbed or maybe he got scratched, I don't know. I took it as a bite mark because while I'm watching the episode, I'm just kind of like, oh man, is he going to kill him? He lifts up his shirt. The only slow reveal of any wounds we get on this show is usually a bite mark.
That's true.
Now that you're mentioning it, it doesn't look like a bite mark, and I feel like an idiot now. But no, it's I think this just doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
That the wolf is still alive.
Yeah. I mean, like, okay, and for one, let me just say thank you because I've been sitting here saying for a while now that I think that these the first group of wolves that came in are the what I call the chaos makers. They go in, they mess up a town with just knives and try to kill them. And I feel that they're like the underlings. That it's like, okay,
they're the pawns.
Initiation. Like if you can go and take this town out with just knives and everything like that, and come back alive, you're going to be higher in the pack. But if they do come back, and it's like half of our guys got wiped out. They have guns. They're tough. We need to go in. That's when the full force is going to go in with guns and like armored cars,
I don't know. I don't want to say that they're that well equipped.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone who's that well stocked and prepared for invasions and war in this new world is going to go about carving a W in their forehead. You know what I mean? Like, if you're that far gone.
Yeah.
It doesn't strike me as you're the type of group that has, a shelter, a really good shelter, or like access to like bathing materials. Because
that dude's
they are obviously living in the woods.
Yeah,
they are obviously living out there in the wilderness, and they're obviously not mentally stable. I don't think anyone in this world is. there are just some people who are better off mentally than others.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's all of them. But the fact that there's only one that's alive left, and it's the one with Morgan has locked up.
Yeah.
I think that's going to play into them learning more about the wolves and being ready for the next time the wolves come.
Yeah.
Especially with Rick running, Rick coming back to Alexandria. Yeah. It's not like he's going to go, well, darn, I guess we're just got to build these walls higher. Then Rick's like, no, we're going to war.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And it's going to be very different than that, but we could talk about that later. This episode's about one guy and his journey.
Yeah,
this episode's about Morgan.
One guy in his journey, and I guess the best kind of thing to really just talk a little bit more about Morgan, and then we can get into Eastman a little bit later. But in the first couple minutes, Morgan, it was clear this episode and the only other episode that we've seen him in that was highly focused on him, besides the little Flash or the Marvel Cinematic Universe cutscenes at the end of the film or TV series, was clear.
Which is one of my favorite episodes of the show. Because it's just so good. Not only is it because we finally get to see where Morgan is after all this time of Rick's, being unable to communicate with him and them not meeting up, Rick bumping into Morgan again and seeing how far gone he is.
Yeah.
Compared to where Rick is technically, because at that point Rick had just suffered,
the loss of
Lori and the prison. Now he's having to I might have to go to war with this governor guy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff on Rick's plate at that point, and he sees probably where he would be if he wouldn't have found other people. Yeah,
and I think that actually does tie in a lot with the whole theme of the episode and kind of what Eastman was saying, But one thing too, because of clear, why do you think that Morgan feels so strongly that he has to clear, that he has to kill both living and dead just to survive, even though he has this extreme kind of death wish on his shoulders, and he's just kind of waiting for that one thing to take him out, but he can't do it himself. So why does he have to just clear?
I think it's because he couldn't kill when he needed to. He lost everything because he couldn't do it, and now he's I gotta do it. I gotta clear. I got to get rid of everything. I got to get rid of everyone because I couldn't do it when it mattered. He couldn't save his wife. He couldn't save his son. Mm-hmm. Now he has nothing. So now there can't be anything left. He has to clear.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm trying too hard to get back to the phrase clear to sound clever, but I do think it's because when he couldn't pull the trigger to kill his wife, when the first episode, when he couldn't kill Jenny. And then we find out later that Jenny is the walker that bit Dwayne.
Yeah.
Imagine that guilt. You could have stopped this.
Yeah.
And now your son unable to do something because that's his mom. He was still a kid.
Yeah.
You can say these aren't people, but he's still looking in the face of his mom.
Yeah.
What did Morgan said? I called out to him. He turned. And he got bit because he feels that guilt. Ugh, I'm not crying. Trying not to burp on air. I'm not crying, but no, I'm not getting choked up or anything. But he couldn't do something about it, and when he calls out for his son out of fear for what is about to happen to his kid, he inadvertently causes his kid to get bit.
Yeah.
In a couple different ways, and that's why when you see the phrase "Dwayne turned" on the wall. That's something that always sticks in my head because I don't think, because we don't know, did Morgan finally find it in him to put Jenny down, and then did he turn around and did he stop his son from turning? Or did his son turn? There's so many meanings to it.
Yeah.
And you can see all the scribbles on the wall and everything.
Yeah.
And just how that pans out. Just how far gone he is. He needs to clear because he couldn't do it when it mattered.
Yeah, and that kind of brings you to the whole beginning of the episode where he's actually kind of screaming and shouting at himself, essentially. Having that Gollum moment from Lord of the Rings. where he's just screaming and he sets his place on fire. Like, oh, I had the gun, I had the knife, or you had the gun, you had the knife. You were supposed to take care of it. It wasn't supposed to be him. This wasn't supposed to happen. And I think you're right. I think Morgan's lost a lot, and kind of parallels to exactly what Rick kind of was going through. He lost his wife, but unlike Dwayne, Carl was able to, kill. She didn't turn yet, but she was going to. Carl was able to kill his mom. And so I'm wondering too if Rick might have maybe lightened up somewhat on him, because after figuring out that Dwayne did turn, he needs to protect himself a little bit more.
And I also see it more like Rick going, okay, and not even Rick, it was like Morgan, like if you look at like the parallels of the two, they both suffered loss, but Morgan's lost everything.
Yeah.
And when Morgan finally lost Dwayne, he had no one to pull him back. He didn't even, I'm not saying like, oh, he didn't have family. He didn't have a Glenn. He didn't have a Michonne or Daryl or a Herschel to pull him back from the edge and say, hey, you got other things to live for. He had nothing. He had no one. He was by himself. And for somebody who has lost all that in this type of setting, that's like the worst thing.
Yeah.
Especially like somebody who is obviously going through this horrible stress, the post-traumatic stress.
I love that was a thing though too, but
you go through all this, the last thing you need is to be by yourself. You do need that support system, a support system of any kind to pull yourself back.
Yeah.
Rick had it.
Yeah.
Morgan did it. And now we see what not having that when you need it immediately happens.
Yeah.
You're out in the woods after you burn down your he had a pretty sweet deal there.
Oh yeah.
And, granted, the town for real where they shot all that episode is now sold. It, somebody has bought this town. I'm not joking. Like, it's a real thing. You could have bought that town a couple of years ago. But now he's essentially lost his home. He's lost everything. Now he's just out in the woods. Like, he doesn't have the strength to do it himself. So he's going to, he's going to keep walking around until he finds something to kill him.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, too, because I don't know if you caught this at all, and I'm wondering if this kind of does have to deal with the whole him trying to clear and him dealing with the post-traumatic stress syndrome. I mean, what do you think it meant when he said, after he ran into Eastman and Eastman locked him up in the cage, Morgan had a really interesting line, and I couldn't hear it at first, and I don't know if it's been said in a previous episode or if they cleared it out in that episode. I don't know. But he said, what was it? I'm looking at the computer trying to find, because I wrote the line down. Okay, he said 16 hours and 19 on the floor. He kept muttering that to himself in the scene after Eastman had created the pen for the goat, which that goat was the best actor I've ever seen. But he was just sitting there and he said 16 hours and 19 on the floor.
I honestly, maybe I don't know what he's referencing. I took it as he was keeping track of how long he was there. Mm-hmm. How long he has been in this cage. That's how I'm seeing it. Like on the floor, how much of it he's spent standing up versus how much of it he's been laying down or sitting down. That's how I took it, but maybe there is a deeper meaning that I'm just not catching either. Yeah,
because see, I don't know, and it might just it might be me just trying to be like that. Oh, deeper meaning.
What else are you going to do when you're trapped in a cage when you have nothing else to care about or whatever? It's not like Morgan's like, oh man, I'm going to be late for my doctor's appointment or something. Like, he's in this cage. Like maybe that's what he's keeping track of. Yeah, maybe this is what crazy survivalist Morgan does with his time.
I either thought that or I thought it might have been him kind of going back because he was talking to himself a lot, and maybe that might have been him remembering how long it actually took for Dwayne to turn. Maybe Dwayne got bit and was alive, and instead of killing him, it took him 16 hours before the sickness really took in and he passed out, and then maybe 19 hours of him dead before he reanimated, before Morgan could actually kill him, if he did kill him at all.
See, this is why these are the type of questions that are better used on Twitter, and you tweet like, Talking Dead, when you have like the show creator sitting on the couch, like in between going, why do you do these things to our favorite characters? What is the significance of the 19 hours thing from episode 604? I need to know. I need to know right now.
But the horrible thing is I never remember them, or I never come to these conclusions until I watch it again. Like, I'm always watching like, oh.
Maybe it's something, because the show tends to do that to you. It makes you want to like think about every little word, every little camera shot, every little thing.
Yeah.
And trying not to diverge too far off topic. The episode where, we seemingly lost Glenn.
Yeah.
Everyone dissected that episode frame by frame. He could have went there. He could have went there. He could have went under here. He could have flown away on a rocket ship.
Yeah.
Like they did everything they possibly could to explain something. So I think it could have just been one of those things where you're like, maybe it's how much time he spent on the floor. Maybe it's how much time it took him to put, Dwayne down after he turned. Who knows? It could be anything, because these are the ramblings of a crazy person.
Yeah.
And like, we'll have to remember that and see if it gets called back to. Maybe he starts adding on time, and Rick's like, "Hey, what are you talking about? Oh, this is like the combination of my luggage." You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It could be anything. So
this is how many times I've eaten. Like, it could be nothing.
Maybe it was like how long it's been since he sat down and was comfortable. Who knows? Like, it could be a lot of things.
Yeah. You don't know. And I mean, this episode was, kind of fantastic with like the whole. For one, like, it had a really good meaning, and it was definitely about finding hope again, or at least Morgan finding his hope again.
It's such a good episode, but it, like, not just in the terms of it being a good episode. Like, the casting was great, the writing was great. I had read some people were like, man, the pacing of this episode's terrible. But I wasn't thrown off by it. I thought it was great because it was so well acted. I can't remember the guy's name, but the dude who played Eastman. He's been in tons of things. Yeah. And he was so good in that role. He was just so good, and it makes you go, man. Like, as I was watching the episode and I got halfway through this, that's a shame this character has to die. Like,
yeah, I was really hoping he would have come back, like, because he was such a cool and interesting character, and one that we don't get a lot now. I mean, we've kind of gotten a lot of the tortured kind of soul, or the person who's essentially kind of lost everything. I mean, we've gotten that, and it was kind of actually nice to see a character that has lost everything before the apocalypse even happened. And then this was just, he still kind of held it together, and he knew what was important, and I love Eastman for that.
I also want to say, like, as great as the character was and everything, I want to coin this term. He has what I like to call Alexandria syndrome. Mm-hmm. Essentially, it's this thing in the zombie apocalypse where you don't have to deal with the craziness of the outside world, and you're kind of sheltered. Mm-hmm. So the world hasn't affected you yet the way the world has. Like, say, Rick and his group, they have been out there. They've been amongst the walkers. They've had to do the craziest things to survive, not just the walkers, but other people. But the people inside Alexandria, they've been inside the wall since it happened.
Yeah.
Eastman to a lesser extent because he's had to kill walkers, but how much has he gone through in the zombie apocalypse compared to, like, what Morgan or Rick has had to do? He's kind of been sheltered a little bit because he's been kind of in his own little place. So I'm trying to coin the phrase Alexandria syndrome, where you don't totally understand how bad things are. Like the whole all lives are precious thing. Uh-huh. You see Morgan struggling with it.
Yeah.
But it's because he's been out. I would have loved to have seen what Eastman would be like if he bumped into the governor, or he bumped into somebody from Terminus. He wouldn't have lasted in Terminus, now that I'm thinking about it, because he's a vegetarian.
No, yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, what would Terminus have done to Eastman?
Yeah.
the deal with Woodbury. Like, how different would he be? Would he be like, well, all lives are precious, but the second he runs into Terminus, it's like, nope, psych, just kidding. I have to like kill people because I don't want to die myself. It's, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
And we learn more about Eastman and how he handled personal problems, but we can get to that in a little bit. We're kind of jumping all over the place, I think. But
yeah, we're gonna kind of focus in on Eastman here in a minute. But I just want to say one thing to kind of go off of what you were saying. Now, Eastman, I don't know how he would have kind of reacted if he would have still kind of had the same philosophy if he did run into the governor, or if he did run into the people from Terminus or something like that. But I like to also think that he's already run into these people before because of his job as a psychiatrist or.
I know he worked for the prison. He was I want to say he was I don't want to say psychiatrist, but he was he worked with the parole board to determine whether or not somebody was clear to be released. So maybe he was a psychiatrist or something.
Yeah. And so I mean,
it had a specific title, and I can't remember what it is.
Yeah,
now.
Neither can I.
I came in super prepared today, but
I mean, okay, so he was that, so he was already kind of faced with this stuff more so than these other characters have been. So he's dealt with drama already, and then especially to what we find out what happens. That right there is.
But sorry, I'm totally cutting you off. But you also got to think he was in that world when there was a system. After we find out what he did to the oh God, and I can't remember his last name now. Crichton,
the oil man.
Yeah. After we find out what he did to him, what was his first, like, he decided, I'm going to turn myself in.
Yeah.
Because there was a system. How would he react in this world now that there is no system? Like, he's already made peace with the fact that there's no system, but he hasn't been out in it.
Yeah.
He's living in a cabin in the middle of the woods with his goat. He doesn't run into people that often.
Yeah.
He said it. He gets the walkers that come up. He goes, he takes care of them. And then he comes back and he just sits in the house and he tries to figure out how to make cheese. Yeah. Like, he hasn't had to deal with it.
Yeah. And
that's what I was asking. Like, how would this world, like, how the all lives are precious thing, how would that apply if you were to bump into the governor or bump into Terminus?
Yeah, well, I don't know, because it seemed like even there was a quick moment when, I mean, Eastman did, which I absolutely love that scene when he told Morgan, and I think that says a lot about Morgan, when he let Morgan out, or when Morgan realized that there was never a lock, which we're going to touch on here in a minute, but when, after the fight was done, and Morgan accidentally broke his daughter's drywall painting. There was a quick moment where Eastman looked like he was going to lose it. There was a real quick moment. So he very well may be. I mean, we already know that he's killed. He's had to kill walkers, but he killed one man. And granted, it didn't make him feel good. But I'm wondering if this is going to also kind of play off of Morgan, especially how he kind of dealt with Carol and everything like that. If it's going to get to the point, and I'm wondering if it's going to break Morgan or make Morgan, that you might have to kill in this world just to survive, and that all life is precious, but for the greater good, if one bad man will go down, or you need to kill one bad man to save hundreds of potential lives that could really bloom in this town.
Like, the idea, I understand what you're saying. It's like the idea of, when is all lives matter, or all lives are precious, become like the many versus the few. Like, when is it? Yeah. It's okay. Like, this guy's a bad guy. If he gets out, he will kill somebody.
Yeah.
So his life is the same value as, like, what if he gets loose and he kills, like, Carl or Judith? You know what I mean? Like, what? All of a sudden it's like, well, all right, well, all lives are precious, I guess. You know, it's like, you can't just do that. Like, especially now in this world, you got to get rid of the dangerous people.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to make it if that person does get to make it.
Yeah.
How many people are going to die because that guy lives?
Yeah, and I think they the group kind of dealt with that in Terminus, or at Terminus are at the church, at least, with the Terminites. And I think Morgan's still going to have to kind of deal with it, like, himself. And I'm wondering if this season is going to push him, and if we are going to see him kill a person because he has to, or if he's really going to stick to his guns and say all life is precious. Because we know someone else that actually has gone through and hasn't killed a single person. I mean, Glenn. So, we don't know. And I want to talk about, what do you think about when Morgan was in the cage? Because I want to touch on this, because we're going to be taking a break here in a minute or two. But, what do you think about when Morgan was actually in the cage and Eastman was like, oh, yeah, you can go. There was never a, lock. And, for me, there was a couple things, it seemed very much like Morgan could have easily checked to see if that door was open, but he kind of chose not to, and he kind of chose to, maybe find the harder way out. And this could just maybe read it into stuff more than I should. Maybe that might have, that also represented, his view on his living situation as of right now, where he'd rather take the hard way out and suffer through instead of going through that door the easy way and accepting people and realizing I need to have people in my life. I can't clear. I need to be accepting. And
well, at first when he's in the cage, you can tell he's not happy. He wants to get out and he wants to kill Eastman. He wants to get out and he wants to fight him. He wants to mess him up.
Yeah.
Because maybe this guy will be the guy who puts me down.
Yeah.
But then after he finds out that you can get out and just walk around or whatever, that he realizes, okay, well, this guy's not going to do it. Mm-hmm. He could have done it. He put me in a cage with no lock. This guy's not going to do it. But he shuts, when he goes to, when Eastman opens the cage, he shuts it again. And he's kind of punishing himself. That's what, Morgan's whole thing at this point is. He'll punish himself up to that extent, but he's not going to, hurt himself or anything,
Yeah. Yeah. And I can agree with that. I think, there's a lot of, at least quote unquote self punishments that they do without actually going and killing themselves. I think what was it last season when they were walking Alexandria, Gabriel kept his collar on and his full priest gear, just as a point of, I'm punishing myself because I think I deserve it. And maybe Morgan thought he deserved it.
Well, Gabriel deserves it because he sucks.
Gabriel
but I'm just saying,
things.
He's my least favorite character just because it's I love, and I know we're getting off topic, but there's the moment where they're formulating the plan to clear that quarry, and he's like, "I'd like to help," and Rick's like, "No," and he just goes back, and I love that because it's man, we hate you. You try putting the group in danger, you try getting them kicked out of the town, but with Morgan, it's all about self punishment. We can watch it and go, man, you couldn't put your wife down, you suffered loss. We're forgiving for him because he has good intention, but he's just lost. Rick was lost. Yeah. Tyrese was lost. Sasha was lost.
Yeah.
We haven't seen Maggie get too far off yet.
Not yet. It looks like she's going to get there next episode, but we're going to talk about that
we've seen
later.
Daryl suffered loss. We've seen him kind of go off and kind of, handle grief and self-punishment in his own way. We've seen all these characters kind of go through this thing, so they all have some form of post-traumatic stresses. Everybody handles it differently. Everybody has different, things to pull them back or set them back up the right way. And for Morgan, his path was a little different. Obviously, because this group went through and were almost eaten.
Yeah.
By the Terminus people. They've been through so much more horrible things, but they've had each other to pull through. Morgan didn't have anybody for such a long time. And he's self-punishing himself until he's found, hey, you got to let go a little bit. You got to find something to cling to. And that's with anybody with who goes through a horrible life experience or some type of post-traumatic stress or suffers a huge loss. You'll find some people go, okay, well, some people take up the same thing Morgan did. They take up a martial arts or some type of yoga or something like that. Some people go to therapy. Some people take up a hobby. Some people, it's just different things. And we kind of saw the opposite route of where Rick went.
Yeah.
And they're at very different points now, but there was a point where they were almost at the same
Yeah.
the point, but now they're just like so far off from where the other one is now.
Yeah.
And that just makes good television.
It really does, and I definitely think because I think somebody on Talking Dead said this, and I really liked it. It was Morgan seems kind of like a little bit of an alcoholic in a way, where he's all or nothing. He's either I'm going to kill everybody or I'm going to kill nothing. And I really think if he was around people, like you said, like had to lead this group or had to actually fight off the governor, he might have come back quicker.
And he wouldn't have come back, but he wouldn't have come back. He would be able to kill people. Mm-hmm. He would have been able to find a balance because within that group, they had the discussion, like, do we do this? Like, what do we do? And they kind of came to the conclusion, like, you know, if Rick said it, you know, when he was being interviewed for Alexandria, people judge you based off what they can take from you. Mm-hmm. And that's essentially what the Wolves have been doing.
Yeah.
Almost exactly that phrasing. But with Morgan, he had nothing left to lose. Made him dangerous. And now he's like kind of integrating back into a group with people who have a different philosophy and a mindset than him.
Yeah.
And now you have three different mindsets coming into Alexandria now. You have Rick's group, you have the Alexandria, you know, community, their viewpoint, and you have Morgan. Now that they've suffered this huge loss and the town's like half murdered and things are just not good.
Yeah.
Now's going to be the tipping point to see whose way leans where. And I think we're leaning more towards Rick's way of thinking, but Morgan's going to be that voice that pulls everybody in another direction. It's going to be interesting to see where the two different points of where Rick and Morgan, because they're going to be kind of the vocal points for the community and how to handle things from this point. It's going to have to take something pretty big to shift them one way or the other.
Yeah, and
I don't want to jump too far ahead or anything, and I know I'm rambling about nonsense.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. We're actually going to be taking a quick break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit more about Eastman and some of the other stuff that actually happened within the episode that I really liked. So stay tuned, everybody, because we will be back after this.
You gotta go, Bat. I gotta go.
Stay tuned for more Dead Air on 89.5 The Wave with Jazz Hands.
We've all done the worst kinds of things just to stay alive. But we can still come back. We're not too far gone.
Dead Air is back on 89.5 The Wave.
We get to come back.
That is right. We are back to Dead Air here on 89.5 The Wave, KCFV Ferguson, and I am your host, your friendly neighborhood DJ, Jazz Hands, and I am joined with the one, the only, B.A.
I'm here. Yep. I thought you were going to keep talking. That's why I didn't go and say anything. But anyway, just such an awesome, well-acted episode.
Yeah.
John Carroll Lynch. We had to look it up because I couldn't remember his name.
Yeah, he did a phenomenal job.
Was so good as Eastman because I've only seen him in one thing. I know he's been in. I've seen him actually in a couple things. I haven't seen him in the most recent thing because he was in American Horror Story.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was in the latest season of that, I think. I haven't watched that show at all. I watched the first episode and I couldn't get back into it.
Yeah.
I couldn't really get into it after the first episode. I was just bored the first episode. I got to maybe give it another shot, but I have Walking Dead to watch, so
yeah, that's the
I make sure I watch Walking Dead every week and then I'm good. I don't need to watch anything else.
Yeah.
But he did such a great job as Eastman. Before I even saw him, I heard his voice. I'm like, no, because I knew him as Drew Carey's brother on the Drew Carey Show, and his character on that show was a cross-dresser, and it was kind of such a big guy, and that was the joke. But I knew him as a comedic actor. I didn't know he could do all these other things that he's done in his career, and he's such a good actor.
Oh yeah,
and he brought that character to life to a point where you're like, man, I wish he didn't have to die. Because you knew halfway through the episode, oh, this dude has to. You probably even knew at the beginning, he's not going to make it through the end of this episode. Because why would him and Morgan not go on,
Yeah.
the most awesome road trip ever.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and as soon as you saw his what's it called, the rabbit's foot, when he pulled that out, you kind of knew that he was going to die this episode. If not, because I didn't know. I thought they might have been able to. They might have continued the story on with the two of them next episode. But I mean, things played how it turned out. So yeah, I mean, big props to him because I haven't seen him really in anything else. But I like him a lot in this, and it makes me to the point where I hope and I want and Walking Dead people, if you're listening, I want there to be a webisode that shows his journey going back to Atlanta and realizing that there's dead and him actually walking through 30 miles of the dead just to get his daughter's house paint art.
It'd be nice. There would have to be some other stuff to go on other than just him walking.
Yeah.
And taking out a couple walkers here and there. But I would like to see, that'd be a cool thing to see, like a mini webisode series if they could get him to do it. But if not, I'm cool with the story we got with him.
Yeah.
Because his character lives on through Morgan and his new wave, living.
Yeah.
Throughout, I like the fact the episode had a training montage.
Yeah, that was good.
Because, you need, even though the episode was an extra long episode, you needed to speed up the training process. You had to also tell the story of how long it took Morgan to get trained and how long he was gone and how, because a lot of stuff's happened in the time between Clear and where we're at now.
Yeah. Trying to actually think mentally where this could have all taken place, or during at least.
It happened. Yeah. It had to have happened sometime after Clear. I don't want to be like, okay, the episode after Clear, he goes on his own. Shortly after Clear. Yeah. Up through the end of season 4.
Yeah.
Season 4, because season 5 opens up with and even through season 5 possibly.
Yeah.
Because as Morgan's following Rick, I like to think Morgan stumbled upon an overrun terminus.
Yeah, and I mean that's one thing.
Or he passed up, because he had to have passed up the prison. Because Morgan isn't just going to go, I guess I'll start looking around. He had to have at least gone, I'll go find the prison. Maybe I can find Rick. And then he sees it on fire and falling apart and overrun with walkers.
Yeah, and I mean
with a broken tank in the middle of the yard. It's like, oh well. Probably not here.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was wondering too. If they were going to actually tie in, if at some point they were just going to be doing the training montage, and maybe they hear gunfire off in the distance and screaming. Maybe that could have been the attack on Terminus, or the attack on
the prison.
The prison, and
I'm actually happy they didn't do that.
Yeah,
because I feel like that would have been too neat and clean. And then why wouldn't they immediately go, well, there's people over there. All life is precious. Let's go save some lives.
Yeah.
I feel like that would have been too nice and neat for The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Which is why, when people talk Fear the Walking Dead crossovers, I feel like that's just too convenient. It's too forced.
Yeah.
It's too nice and neat. And
yeah, I'll give you that.
Let's line this up here and make sure everything lines up just to be clever.
Yeah.
I like the fact that the shows kind of go, no, this is how it's going to be, and they kind of focus on what they're going to focus on because they have a plan.
Yeah,
and
I respect them for that.
I just would have liked to have maybe during the montage, maybe towards the end, we kind of see glimpses of Morgan's journey, and you kind of get a hint at the prison being down and Terminus being what it is. But it got us to where we are, so I'm not going to complain too much.
Yeah. And I agree with that. And now you kind of wanted to talk a little bit about, and I want to talk about it too, the whole big scene with the or with them
with Eastman's story.
Yeah, Eastman's story.
That was such a it did not take the turn that I thought it was going to take.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to say, the guy was released anyway.
And that's it.
And he got released anyway. And I thought that was going to be I did not see it going the route of, oh yeah, and by the way, he murdered my wife and kid, and then just walked himself into the police station.
Yeah.
And it's whoa, that was just such a heavy, dark story. You would not be oh, well, what did you do? You wouldn't like shame him for going the route that he did or thinking, oh, I'm just going to kill this guy. I want to see him suffer. Because if somebody were to do that to you, you would want to see them hurt. You would want to see them suffer. And then when he, so what did you do? And he's like, Eastman says, all life is precious. Morgan's like, so did you kill him? All life is precious.
Yeah, I think that
he's just repeating the mantra because he's ashamed of what he did. And
I think I think they talked about it a little bit on Talking Dead, but I really do think that it definitely shows that he's kind of not a psychopath crazy person. When he did kill this person, he got his revenge, and it didn't make him feel any better.
And then, like he said, I went to go turn myself in.
Yeah.
And I found there was no one to turn myself into.
Yeah.
The whole idea that he knew he did something wrong and he had to pay for it.
Yeah.
It's kind of more, maybe it's a lot of like Morgan going, I made a mistake. I lost everything that mattered to me. I need to be punished.
Yeah.
There's no one to turn himself into, so maybe he's just going to keep running around until somebody puts him down.
Yeah.
And there could be the parallels to their story there. It's just very different ways of one self-punishing, the other one's willing to accept the punishment. One's just going recklessly about it when it's nothing he did really wrong. He just made a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with you with there. I think that maybe Eastman's whole view of thinking, because I don't think he's kind of run into anybody or had any contact with a living human being until Morgan, maybe that's why he's so trying to save him, because he's like, well, I failed, or I gave into my anger and I allowed myself to be angry and kill this person. Let me try to save this person.
I can make it right by setting him on a better path, and then maybe I've saved a life to make up for the one that I took.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, like kind of maybe looking on the brighter side, when Eastman's going through people's wallets looking for identification, were you like me and expecting like a cool Easter egg or something really cool to pop up? Like he pulls out, like, it would have been really messed up if it was like the Morales, like somebody from the Morales family, or like somebody who is like we've bumped into, but like a wink or an Easter egg of some kind.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Oh, Robert Kirkman. And he just throw like
Robert Kirkman carves his, like the gravestones are just like
Scott
Robert
Gimple,
Kirkman.
what an idiot. And then just like what if something like that? Like I was expecting a cool Easter egg on one of maybe there was and they cut it because they don't want to do something like that in such a serious episode. But I was expecting one.
Yeah.
Once I saw the graveyard.
Just a little bit of fun, like, kind of to be had with that. And I don't know. So, I mean, what else? Because Eastman was an amazing character. I fell in love with the character. I think he's awesome. I mean, and one thing that I really did like about Eastman is how he could analyze people and how he knew Morgan definitely did have post-traumatic stress syndrome, right?
Yeah.
PTSD, yeah.
Yeah. He, it was part of his job at the prison, the correctional facility, to decide whether or not somebody was able to be put back into society or be let go. You don't do that job if you're not able to read people. And he was right about Crichton. I always feel like I'm saying it wrong, but like
Crichton, like that.
But he was right about that guy. He read him, and you got to be able to read past what people put on as, it's when he looked at Morgan, he saw something more than just a guy who tried killing him. He saw past that and goes, okay, well, this guy needs help.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to be put down. He needs help because there's something worth saving here. Now, if you look at like some of the criminals he might have dealt with while he was doing his job before the fall, he would be able to go, okay, well, this guy made a mistake. This guy didn't do this because he was evil.
Yeah.
You need to be able to do that. And that's a skill that definitely become very handy in the zombie apocalypse. It's something Daryl has.
Yeah.
Aaron said you can tell who good people are. Some people just can read people.
Yeah.
It's not something they make up for TV. There are people, I'm relatively good at it sometimes, but there are people who have a way better track record than I have who are real. It's, like the characters on the show, they could be whatever, but like in a very real way, they let you know that this guy can read people. And they gave it a meaning. Like, it just wasn't like, hey, I just happen to be this guy who lives in the woods. They gave you a purpose as to why this guy's good at, reading people.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And there's another thing that I really liked about Eastman and the scene between him and Morgan when they went back to Morgan's old kind of little stick base, the Eeyore kind of base. Mm-hmm. And Morgan kind of was having like his, a little bit of a breakdown, and Eastman told him, "Don't tell me who died, say their names." And like confronting pretty much making Morgan confront what he was afraid of early, what he was trying to kind of like not run from, but essentially run from.
Yeah, whenever you're dealing with some type of traumatic thing and you're not willing or able to address the situation, or more specifically the people who you felt like you've wronged, you're not going to be able to get over it unless you're able to say it. Yeah. You got to admit, like, okay, well, my wife Jenny and my son Dwayne, I let them down, they died, and all that good hard work almost went undone when that walker, or that man that Morgan killed, came running out of the woods, and he was just like, "This is it. Yeah, this is where I did this to myself. Yeah, I'm ready for this." And he had just made peace, sort of, with the mistake he made, but he's like, "Here it is. I've made peace. I can go." And that's when Eastman steps in. Yeah, and they have that, "Here's not here."
Yeah, because what do you think that meant?
I think the phrasing "here's not here" kind of means he thinks, I'm going to die here. Uh-huh. I'm going to finally be done here. Here represents the idea, at least the way I'm seeing it, where Morgan finally gets what he wants. Uh-huh. Here's not here. Get what I'm saying? Like, right here is not where you're going to get what you're wanting. Yeah. Here's not here. Yeah. Yeah. And that's how I took it. That's what I thought it was. There are some episode titles where you can see exactly where they come from. And this one, we obviously, whenever they say the episode title when I'm watching the show, I'm like, yeah, they did it. But doubly true for when they said, "We are the Walking Dead." It's like, yes, he finally said it. Yes. And no, that's how I took the episode. Here is not where you're going to go out. Uh-huh. Here's not here. And Morgan's just like, "Man, I'm not going to die." Like, he was just so disappointed because he really thought, I can finally find peace and I can just stop beating myself up.
Yeah, and I think Eastman really wanted to push him forward a lot more, to the point where I really kind of liked the part where Morgan was kind of slowly slipping back in. He had a relapse and was slipping back in, and Eastman's just like, "Knock it off, Morgan. You're done."
And you talk relapse, like Hardwick said, like an alcoholic, I either do it or I don't. Yeah. He had his relapse, and now he has found himself in a position where everything was good. He had adopted this new persona, all life is precious. He is moving along, and now he's being tested. What happened to Alexandria, the wolf that he has sitting in the house. There's so many things that are going to be testing his sobriety. Yeah. If you want, we're going to keep going that route. Yeah. He has so much to test him, and we'll find out whether or not he can withstand it. Because now he's out in the world. Eastman could preach all he wants about all life is precious, but what happens when all that life out there is telling you, hey, you might need to kill someone? Yeah. That's what I was asking. How would Eastman do in Terminus? How would he do with the governor? Yeah. He didn't have to deal with that. Now we're going to see what Eastman's practices when they're practiced in the real world. Yeah. Yeah. What happens next?
Yeah, and that's definitely going to be interesting to see, and I'm sure we're going to be thinking about it next episode, because that was straight up Rick screaming.
Oh, it totally was.
Open the gate, open the gate. So I think let's do a little bit of a prediction, because then we're running out of time real quick. So.
I think when the gates open, everything's fine. Nothing bad happened. It was all Rick hallucination. No, I think when the gate opens, Rick's going to see the damage, demand to know what happened. I think him and the people of Terminus are going to be on, not Terminus, Alexandria are going to be on very shaky ground, because Rick if Rick didn't go out there for that plan, he would have been there. I don't necessarily think the Wolves were like, let's wait till the leader Rick leaves.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna find out what happens when Rick Grimes, interrogates the Wolf, because Morgan's gonna let him know I got one of them here.
Yeah,
he has to let him know. He has to say something, and there's going to be conflict between the two on how to deal with it.
Yeah,
and
I mean, I really thought, kind of backtracking a little bit to the scene where the Wolf, or when Morgan and the Wolf were talking, and he was just like, "Oh, you can't save me, Morgan. I'm going to kill everybody." I really thought Morgan was like, "You're right. I can't kill you, but I don't have to save you." And I really thought Carol was going to come around the corner with the gun and just look at the flowers.
I think it's going to be one of those. Morgan has to get okay with the idea that, okay, I'm not going to kill anyone, but somebody else in this group will.
Yeah.
He has to get either good with that or good with the idea of killing. I don't know what you think.
Yeah.
But I'm going to let you talk because you are the host of Dead Air on 89.5 The Wave, KCFE Ferguson, right here each and every Thursday. So I'll let you go ahead and talk about it.
Okay. Pretty much. I think next episode we're gonna have a kind of like, I really think that Rick, they're not really gonna have time to kind of react with the Wolf being locked away in the cell, because I really think that the Horde is right behind Rick.
I didn't even think of that. I forgot all about the Horde following. So
I think that's
a good point I totally ignored.
I think that they're going to have battle stations ready. From the trailer, it looks like we're going to see maybe what happened to Glenn, if not this episode, next episode, because it looks like Maggie's going to be gearing up to be going alone, and maybe...
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be enough time to mourn the dead and bury them.
Yeah.
Now it's time we got to do something about the walkers up against the wall. I mean, there's so much ahead, and they weren't lying when this season was going to be nerve-wracking and everything. I don't know. I can't wait to see what's next. I can't wait for Sunday to roll around.
Yeah,
and we'll find out. But I definitely think you're right. There's the Herde's coming. I totally forgot about the Herde coming, because I thought we diverted a big portion of it, and I totally forgot about it.
Here comes the mega Horde.
It's easy to get overwhelmed with what we thought we saw with Glenn, and now we're all zenned out. Yeah. Now it's like, okay, what are you going to do to us this week? What's going to happen now?
Yeah. Now I think they're either going to not lose Alexandria, but maybe kind of lose Alexandria. I know I say that a lot, but I think they're going to lose Alexandria, and that's when Rick's going to be like, I'm not losing another home. I
don't think they're going to lose Alexandria. I think they'll lose it in the sense of what Deanna thought it wasn't should have been. But they're not going to lose. They're going to lose the original idea. But they're not going to lose it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a weird way of like phrasing a statement. Like they're going to lose the idea, but they're not going to actually lose it.
Yeah. I understand that. I can see that, and I mean that's pretty much, I think, a good place to kind of wrap it up. We talked a little bit way longer than we were.
Yeah, just a little bit, but not much.
Yeah, we actually did pretty good.
Good quality conversation on 89.5 The Wave with Dead Air.
Yep, yeah, I absolutely loved it, and thank you so much, BA, for joining me this week. We need to do.
I'll pop back up next time I have a Thursday free.
Awesome, and hopefully, we'll have a lot more to talk about. But thanks everybody for tuning in. Real quick, if you want to check out this episode and any other episodes that we have previously done, you can go to facebook.com/STLDeadAir. I should be posting this one up tonight, if not early tomorrow morning. And you can listen to this one and any other ones that we've actually done previous, and see how we've thought of the season and if any predictions have come true or anything like that. But thanks everybody so much for tuning in. I've had so much fun. It's been a blast, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.